Deshatarine. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Now, I don't know about the time zone that you're in, but where I am, it's Ekadashi today. And on Ekadashi day, we're supposed to, we do things like fasting and, right, trying to do some more hearing and chanting. And the purpose of Ekadashi is to increase our devotion, because on the 11th day of the waxing moon, 11th day of the waning moon, the goddess of Ekadashi is predominating, and we want to please the goddess of devotion. So what better way to try to increase our devotion, but to hear about the holy name, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's whole movement obviously is Harinam Sankirtan. So I wanted to look at a section from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 15. The chapter is entitled "The Lord Accepts Prasadam at the House of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya." A little bit of a long chapter. Just briefly, the wonderful Jagannath Ratha Yatra Festival has just finished in Puri, and the Lord and his associates and devotees had an ecstatic time, just an ecstatic time, chanting and dancing in Ratha Yatra. And Lord Chaitanya obviously was in total ecstasy, and he blessed the devotees by exhibiting his ecstatic symptoms and not being able to hide his ecstatic love for Krishna in the mood of Radharani, right? In the mood of Radharani, in ecstasy, trying to pull Krishna back to Vrindavan. So the devotees were over the top ecstatic, attending Ratha Yatra with Lord Chaitanya. And as with everything, all things come to an end. So the Ratha Yatra festival and celebrations surrounding Ratha Yatra had to come to an end. And it was time for the Bengali devotees to leave Orissa and go back to West Bengal, which was just Bengal at that time. So they're getting ready to depart, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the most perfect host, doesn't just say, okay, bye, see you next year, but he very nicely interacts with each of the devotees and praises the devotees, has very personal interactions with them. So I wanted to look at the exchange between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and one Bengali devotee named Satyaraj Khan. So we're going to look at 9 verses, beginning with text 103 in chapter 15 of Madhya Lila, and try to discuss a little something. So text 103, I'll read the Bengali. This is Satyaraj Khan addressing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, Grahasta Vishayi Ami Ki Mor Sadhane Shri Mukhe Agya Kara Prabhu Nivedi Charane. Prabhupada's translation. My dear Lord, being a householder and a materialistic man, I do not know the process of advancing in spiritual life. I therefore submit myself unto your lotus feet and request you to give me orders. Does this verse remind us of any verse or more than one, any verse from the Bhagavad Gita? Does this statement by Satyaraj Khan, where he's submitting to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a humble mood, saying, I'm just a householder, I'm a materialistic person, I don't even know how to advance in spiritual life, I therefore am coming to you, I'm submitting to your lotus feet and requesting you to tell me, give me some orders. Does this text remind us of anything from Bhagavad Gita? Somebody can say if they feel.
Mataji, Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, when he was bewildered. He didn't know exactly what to do. He was in a difficult situation. Chapter 2, verse 11 or 13, Mataji, I'm not exactly sure.
It's actually 7.
7, okay.
Yeah, so it's a very famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, 2.7, right? So this is Arjuna's very similar statement. Listen to Arjuna's statement and compare it to Satyaraj Khan. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava prichchami tvam dharma samuda chetaha yatstreyasya nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapanam. So Arjuna is saying that I'm confused about my duty. I've lost my composure. I'm feeling like some miserly weakness has overcome me. So in this condition, I'm submitting to you and asking you, just tell me what's best for me. I'm coming to you as a disciple, a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So Satyaraj Khan is taking the same mood. He's just leaving from Ratha Yatra, right? Everybody else, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorifying them. They're having so many wonderful exchanges. And here's Satyaraj Khan, before he leaves, taking this very wonderful, humble position of requesting for instructions. Right? He's not asking for anything. He's just asking for instructions. Now, is there another verse in Bhagavad Gita? Can we think of any other verse in Bhagavad Gita that this passage, this text that we just read from Chaitanya Charitamrita might remind us of? Or, that is relevant, I should say.
Surrender to a spiritual master.
Okay, what text is that?
4.34, I guess.
That's correct. That's correct. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upatekshanti te dhyanam yaninas tattvadarshinaha. Approach a spiritual master. But what does that mean, to approach a spiritual master? It means in the mood of surrender, not in, hey, I want to check you out, like a challenging mood or just an academic curiosity mood, but in the mood that, like this Satyaraj Khan is displaying, in the mood of, I don't even know what to do to make advancement, but I see in you a person who can help me. And pariprashnena, make relevant questions and perform some service. So immediately, Lord Chaitanya is going to reply to Satyaraj Khan in the next text, 104. He says, Prabhu kahena Krishna seva Vaishnava sevana nirantara kara Krishna nam sankirtana. Lord Chaitanya replies that without cessation, continue chanting the holy name of the Lord, Krishna. Whenever possible, serve him and his devotees, the Vaishnavas. So this resonates with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's statement that Kirtaniya Sadahari, one should, without cessation, continue chanting. And he brings up here that whenever possible, when he says whenever possible, it doesn't mean whenever you have time, whenever it fits into your busy schedule, whenever you feel like it. That's not what he means by whenever possible. By whenever possible, he means whenever you get the chance. Serve Krishna and his devotees, the Vaishnavas, because sometimes you might be living out in a place like Grand Junction, Colorado. You don't have any devotees to serve except maybe your own spouse, right? Sometimes we're not surrounded by devotee association. So how do we really serve them? Or we don't have the deity of Krishna. So that's what this whenever possible, serve Krishna and his devotees. That should also be done without cessation, whenever the opportunity arrives. So 3 things Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately tells Satyaraj Khan to make advancement in spiritual life, to continue chanting incessantly, serve Krishna and the Vaishnavas. And then Satyaraj Khan being very intelligent. This is the proof that we're sincere. We're given an instruction, and it might seem really simple, like, hey, Prabhu, serve the Vaishnavas. Instead of saying, oh, okay, that's what I'll do, Satyaraj Khan is showing a really nice intelligence here by asking a follow-up question. Questions should be followed by follow-up questions for clarification. So Satyaraj Khan, Satyaraja Bale, Vaishnava Chiniba Ke Mane, Ke Vaishnava Kaha Tanra Samanya Lakshane. Upon hearing this, Satyaraj said, how can I recognize a Vaishnava? Please let me know what a Vaishnava is. What are his common symptoms? Because you can't serve a Vaishnava if you can't recognize the Vaishnava. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhu kahe yanra mukhe shuni ekabar Krishna nam se puja shreshta sabakar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, whoever chants the holy name of Krishna just once is worshipable and is the topmost human being. In his purport, Prabhupada references Rupa Goswami's Upadesh Amrita, in which Rupa Goswami says, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta, that if one has faith in the holy name, then they can begin their life of Krishna consciousness. And so it's said there in the Upadeshamrita that if one is chanting the holy name of the Lord, it doesn't say how much they're chanting, they even just chant Hare Krishna. They should be respected. And then if one is actually initiated, they should be offered full obeisances. So Rupa Goswami is instructing us on how to properly relate with devotees and offer our respects, because if we're not offering respects to the devotees properly, then we can't do Kirtaniya Sadahari. But if we're neophyte, like really neophyte, we can't discern the levels of devotees. So Rupa Goswami in his Upadeshamrita says that if we are in the association of a more advanced devotee than ourselves, then we serve that devotee. And primarily we hear from that devotee, because that is service, to hear from the devotee. And if we are in the association of a devotee who is basically on the same level of us, then we make friends with that devotee and we do service together. We share our minds, our hearts with each other. And if we're in the association of a devotee who is less advanced than us, then we serve them by instructing them, allowing them to, confide in us, correcting them, guiding them, teaching them. So whatever level of devotees that we are associating with, they may be more advanced than me, basically equal with me, or less advanced than me. We have to have the service attitude, and that's what it means to serve the Vaishnavas. It doesn't only mean to find advanced devotees to render some service to and to hear from. It also means to seek out lesser devotees who you can serve by giving mercy. So I think this is a very interesting point, because when we hear this sentence, which, we hear it like all the time, right? How many times have you heard, you should serve devotees? If you want to make advancement, Prabhu, you should serve devotees. How many times have you heard that? You probably can't count how many times you've heard that. But when we hear that, oh, we're supposed to serve devotees, for some reason, the mind is only thinking of 1/3 of Rupa Goswami's instruction. That's only 1/3 of Rupa Goswami's instruction, that you find a more advanced devotee and hear from them and render, some kind of service. And that's totally, it's necessary, it's mandatory that we do that. But why are we forgetting the other 2/3 of the instruction? Namely, find somebody who's equal with you and hear and chant with them. Share your minds and hearts together and do service cooperatively together, not in a competitive mood. I'm going to sabotage your service and you're going to sabotage mine. And what about the third one? Seek out those devotees that are more neophyte than me, and let me take up some responsibility for helping these devotees to, offer them some mercy in the form of instruction, etc. So this is very important. So when Satyaraj Khan was told, you should serve Krishna and the devotees, he very rightly said or asked, well, how will I recognize a devotee? What are his symptoms? We are not going to read this purport. It's a nice purport, of course, but it's a little bit long. Prabhupada's making the point at the end of the purport that it doesn't matter if someone's a neophyte devotee. We might think, oh, that person's so neophyte, such an immature devotee. But Prabhupada makes the point that, you know what, if they're chanting Hare Krishna, they are better than any karmi, any jnani, and any yogi. We should not ever think that even the most immature devotee is somebody that, we should look down upon or criticize or find fault with. Because, what did Lord Chaitanya say? He said, Krishna Nam Se Puja Shreshta Sabakar. Ekabar, he said, Ekabar Krishna Nam. If I understand that that person has chanted the holy name of Krishna even once, he is worshipable and the best of all human beings. So what an amazing perception of what a devotee is. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continues, Eka Krishna Name Kare Sarva Papashaya Navavidha Bhakti Purna Namahaitehai. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person is relieved from all the reactions of a sinful life. One can complete the 9 processes of devotional service simply by chanting the holy name. Now, does this statement by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu make you say, wait a minute, I've chanted the name of Krishna more than once, and I don't feel like I'm completely relieved from all the reactions of my past sinful lives, many, 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 many lives? Oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is probably just speaking some, hyperbole. He's just exaggerating. Oh, but wait a minute. Isn't that like one of the offenses to the holy name? To, preach the glories of the holy name to the faithless, and to, on our part, to consider the glories of the holy name to be exaggeration. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorifying the holy name, saying that if one simply chants it once, then they're completely freed of all reactions of sinful life. But we say that's an exaggeration, because I don't see that in, reality. So then we become guilty of that offense, that to consider the glories of the holy name to be imagination or exaggeration. So we have to understand what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying. Prabhupada, I believe in this purport, brings out that, as we know, there's Nam Aparad, there's Nam Abbas, and then there's Shuddha Nam. So Nam Abbas is that stage where we're really trying to chant without offenses. And when you look at the 10 offenses to the holy name, the one that probably is the one that we most are guilty of is, Prabhupada adds to the list there, he says, he just says, to be inattentive while chanting. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. And I think anybody who's tried to chant a round of japa and says, I'm going to chant all 108 Hare Krishna mantras on this round attentively. I'm going to completely listen to, be attentive to mantra number 1, mantra number 2, mantra number 3, all the way through mantra 108. I'll let you all go home and do your homework assignment and make an honest report at the end. Were you able to chant 108 Hare Krishna mantras with full attention? So it's probably the biggest aparad that we are. When I say biggest aparad, what I mean to say is it's probably the aparad that we are most commonly committing. I don't think many of us are blaspheming devotees and disobeying the spiritual master, or defying the scriptures, criticizing scriptures, or all these different things. But this one, not being attentive while chanting, it's right there all the time. So that's because we're in the stage of Nam Abbas. Abbas means like a shadow, not the full sun. You're like just seeing like a shadow. So in that stage of Nam Abbas, our realization and vision of the holy name is covered or clouded by our anartas. And it's the anartas that cause us to be distracted and inattentive. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, if one simply chants once, all the reactions to his sinful life are eradicated, he's actually speaking of Shuddha Nam. Yes, while we chant Nama Bas, we're certainly being purified, but it's not all at once. It's not all at once. But if we chant Shuddha Nam even once, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, then that cleansing is done in one fell swoop. The 9 processes of devotional service, it's being pointed out here that if one simply chants the holy name of the Lord, then one has achieved the results. They've completed all 9 processes of devotional service. So that's a pretty strong statement. Okay, now we're going to get into a few verses here that, some people haven't really thought of these verses fully and properly. I wanted to really concentrate on these. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continuing in text 108. Diksha Purascharya Vidhi Apekshana Kare Jiva Sparshe Achandala Sabade Udare. One does not have to undergo initiation or execute the activities required before initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with his lips. Thus, even a man in the lowest class, Chandala, can be delivered. I'm going to skip this long but beautiful purport for now and go to the next 3 verses and then discuss them together. So now text 109, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continues. Anusanga pale kare samsare dakshaya chitta akarshya karaya krishne premodaya. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one dissolves his entanglement in material activities. After this, one becomes very much attracted to Krishna, and thus dormant love for Krishna is awakened. Text 110. This is a verse from Rupa Goswami's Padyavali. The holy name of Lord Krishna is an attractive feature for many saintly liberal people. It is the annihilator of all sinful reactions and is so powerful that, save for the dumb who cannot chant it, it is readily available to everyone, including the lowest type of man, the Chandala. The holy name of Krishna is the controller of the opulence of liberation. And it is identical with Krishna. When a person simply chants the holy name with his tongue, immediate effects are produced. Chanting the holy name does not depend on initiation, pious activities, or the Purascharya regulative principles generally observed before initiation. The holy name does not wait for any of these activities. It is self-sufficient. I'm going to read one more text and then discuss. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives his final instruction to Satyaraj Khan here. Ataiva yanra mukhe eka krishnanam seta vaishnava kariha tanhara samana. One who is chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is understood to be a Vaishnava. Therefore, you should offer all respects to him. Prabhupada ends that purport by saying that it is the duty of the householder to offer respects to the unalloyed Vaishnava. This is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. And in this purport, he resonates with Bhaktivinoda Thakur that for householders, the most important principle is to serve Vaishnavas. So I want to bring up perhaps a question that came to your mind while we were reading these verses that almost is alarming. In two of these verses, text 110, which was from Padyavali, and in text 108, which was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's own statement, it is said that the chanter, or one who wants to chant the holy name, let me just come up here, exactly how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said it. He said that one does not have to undergo initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with its lips. So does this not put up a few red flags in our mind? That both in Padyavali and here, right from the mouth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we're being told that you don't have to get initiated. Just chant Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just chant Hare Krishna. Don't worry about all this initiation stuff. So it might be prudent for us to clarify this because, unfortunately, this has been, believe it or not, these verses have actually led to devotees having some very serious discussions and arguments about, why we even get initiated. It says right here, I don't have to get initiated. I can just chant, right? So this term diksha, it's a word that we throw around. The English translation, we say initiation, because diksha doesn't have, as most Sanskrit words, doesn't have a truly precise English translation for it. So when we use this word diksha, we just say initiation. But Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sandarbha, he describes diksha as the process by which one awakens transcendental knowledge and becomes freed from all sinful reactions. He doesn't say it's a ceremony. In the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, the term diksha, traditionally, and rightly so, the term diksha referred to what we in ISKCON refer to as Brahman initiation or second initiation. Diksha meant, and has always meant, the acceptance of mantras from the guru that signifies that this devotee is now authorized to worship the deity, for example. In ISKCON, like I said, we call it Brahman initiation. It's maybe not the most precise way to define it, but second initiation, we say. But in any case, this diksha meant receiving mantras from the guru and now being authorized to worship the deity. And it's a pancharatrika initiation. the worship of the deity has been emphasized by our acharyas as very necessary for householders and neophyte devotees, because this deity worship forces us to be so clean and regulated, etc. We have to offer everything to the deity. The deity's in the center of the house, so all the food, all the everything gets offered to the deity. We have to make our house a temple. Therefore, we can't be walking around doing sinful activities in the house. We can't be unclean, right? We can't talk nonsense in the house because we're just servants here. The house isn't my house. It belongs to my deity, Krishna. And I'm just, I'm living in the servants' quarters, and I'm just here to serve. So deity worship, Prabhupada very much emphasized that it was to purify the devotees so that they could actually live on the Brahminical platform, and that their minds would be more peaceful. The mind and the senses would be more peaceful and tamed and in the mode of goodness and not overtaken by lust, anger, and greed. And then the mind would be more inclined or more capable of chanting attentively without offenses. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he says that the holy name simply needs to be vibrated by one's tongue and that one need not get initiated, he is not referring to what we in ISKCON call first initiation or Harinam initiation. Starting with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the acceptance of Harinam became a ceremony, an actual initiation. Before that, when we hear of Vaishnava initiation in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, it was referring to mantra diksha, the receiving of the Gayatri and other mantra dikshas from the Guru. But from Bhaktisiddhanta's time, and then continuing into Gaudiya Math and through Prabhupada, etc., we actually take, quote unquote, diksha or initiation from the spiritual master to receive the Hare Krishna mantra. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati considered the chanting of Hare Krishna to be the actual connection with the spiritual master. So he actually emphasized that the chanting of Hare Krishna was, receiving the Hare Krishna mantra from the spiritual master was the real initiation, the more important initiation. So it's interesting that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's saying that the chanting of the holy name isn't dependent on, it doesn't require the practitioner to get the mantra diksha from the spiritual master, which allows, for example, the devotee to do deity worship, but rather he's putting such emphasis on the holy name of the Lord. He's almost like we explain how Vaishnavas are better than Brahmanas, right? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Vaishnava versus Brahmana. He went, he jumped through hoops. He did everything to preach that Vaishnava is, no matter what Varna they might come from, a Vaishnava is actually higher than a Brahmana. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually basically saying that himself by his glorification of the holy name, that the holy name is so perfect and complete and so capable, because it's identical with Krishna, so capable of liberating the chanter and purifying them of all sins, that it doesn't even depend on Diksha. One doesn't even have to do all that mantra Diksha like Brahmanas do. And that person who chants the holy name, they're considered the greatest amongst humans. They're worshipable. They're my object of worship. So Satyaraj Khan is getting a very, very beautiful instruction just as he's about to leave Jagannath Puri, go back to Bengal to wait another year before he returns to Puri for Rath Yatra again. He's getting a very beautiful instruction here that's meant for, Prabhupada said, for all householders. And that is that all you have to do is, without cessation, chant the holy name, serve the Lord, and serve his devotees. And don't lack faith in the holy name. That's one of the offenses to the holy name, right? To lack faith in the holy name and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to instill such strong faith in the holy name to his devotees by taking a kind of controversial stance, if you will, when he very boldly says that the holy name is so powerful that one doesn't even have to undergo initiation. Because according to Vedic standards, you're not even a human being if you don't get initiated. So the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, they would take Diksha mantras from Guru. And it would differ between Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. They would have different, selection of mantras for these three varnas, because only the Brahmana was going to do deity worship, right? So the mantras may differ, but you weren't even considered it like a full human being. Animals take birth biologically. Human beings take birth biologically, but human beings can have a second birth. And that second birth is that diksha by the spiritual master. And then you're twice born. And of all the twice born, the Brahmanas are the highest. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking a very bold stand here by saying, you don't even have to do that initiation stuff. All you have to do is vibrate the holy name. And you'll be more than liberated. You'll be more than liberated. You'll actually awaken pure love for Vraja Krishna. And what can be higher than that? So we should understand, I won't go on because we could have a long discussion, but just to clarify, this is not to say, therefore, devotees shouldn't get initiated. One of the offenses to the holy name is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master or to belittle his instructions, to put some interpretation on them. So what did Srila Prabhupada say? Over and over and over again, he said one should be initiated. And that initiation was that a formal acceptance of the spiritual master, just like marriage. Two people might live together and be very faithful to each other, et cetera, but without official marriage, there's always some doubt about whether this person's really committed. They could just pack their bags and leave any moment. And unfortunately, with divorce today, we might argue that marriage doesn't make it any more stable, but whatever. So like that, Prabhupada insisted that anybody who seriously wanted to be his student must be initiated. And he also encouraged for those who were going to be more steady and committed to take that second, what we call second initiation. But Prabhupada also understood that there's going to be many, many, many people who, for example, get Srila Prabhupada's books that might not take official initiation, but that this chanting of the holy name would be so powerful to purify them. So when we read Prabhupada's books, we do learn of the offenses to the holy name, and one of them is do not, belittle or disobey the orders of the spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada has asked us to do formal initiation, both what we call first initiation and, if possible, second initiation. And it's not because he's saying that the holy name is dependent on initiation. What he is saying is that we need it. We need formal vows, just like I gave the example of marriage. We need to make formal vows in front of our community and our family and the deities and the Vaishnavas, because it's difficult for most of us to keep promises if we're not making such formal vows. But we should never think that the holy name is dependent on our, ceremonies, etc. And secondly, Prabhupada really did want his devotees to be qualified for that second initiation for deity worship, because he really did see that we needed the regulations of deity worship to assist us in our purification for coming to the platform of chanting Shuddhanam. Because we really got to get through the Namabha stage. We really have to come to the platform of Shuddhanam, because only when we chant Shuddhanam are we going to get realization of our actual Swarup. Are we going to actually get realization of what my relationship with Krishna is? Are we going to actually taste Krishna Prema? And only then, when we chant Shuddhanam, are we completely freed from the three modes of material nature. So when we hear these glorifications of the holy name, that's glorification of Shuddhanam. And when we're chanting and we say, well, I don't see the results of chanting that these verses are speaking of, that's because we have to recognize we're not on the level of Shuddhanam chanting. We're on the level of Namabhas. And that's not a criticism. That's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just our honest assessment of where we're at. And Prabhupada very strongly instructed and recommended that deity worship, service to the Vaishnavas was very necessary to purify us so that we could elevate ourselves. We could become elevated to the platform of chanting Shuddhanam. So we should take Lord Chaitanya's instruction to Satyaraj Khan as a very important instruction in our life. And being an Ekadashi day today, we can try to vow to really increase our devotion to the holy name, and following those three simple instructions that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to chant without cessation. That means we can chant in our mind even while we're working or driving or whatever we're doing. To chant without cessation, to serve Krishna, which mostly means to have the deity in your home. Even if we don't have like the statue type three-dimensional deity, at least worshipable pictures. But without the deity in the home, how are we really going to serve Krishna? And then the third one, to serve the Vaishnavas. And again, that means recognizing three different levels of Vaishnavas and not avoiding serving all three. Saying I'm only going to serve one category, not the other two categories. To serve all three categories of Vaishnavas appropriately. And if we follow those three instructions, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Satyaraj Khan that he would achieve perfection by doing so. So very important section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, with a couple of verses there that have become very controversial among devotees who don't understand what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying when he says that one need not have formal initiation. So let us not misunderstand that or be bewildered by people who misunderstand it and try to convince us, differently. So I'll stop there and see if there's some discussion by the assembled devotees. If anybody has any realizations they want to share about their understanding of these verses or the chanting of Hare Krishna in general, or anything relevant that one would like to ask or, contribute, then we can ask you to unmute yourself and speak something.
I have one question, Mataji.
Okay, Sumit.
Yes, actually, here you just said that, Vaishnava is higher than a Brahman, but Krishna says, right, go Brahmana Hitayacha, right?
Okay, very nice. Very nice question. It sounds like Krishna is saying, of all the living entities, go Brahmana Hitayacha. The Brahmana and the cow are like my two top favorites, right? Those are the two that I'm really biased towards. In one place, Prabhupada explains that when we say Brahmana, of course, that's such a general term. What does Brahmana mean anyway? Brahmana is not just a Varna. I mean, it is a Varna, but within that Varnic, category, not everyone's the same. So there's actually different types of Brahmanas. So the neophyte Brahmana is one who isn't beyond Brahman realization. They don't have sufficient knowledge, what to speak of realization of anything beyond Brahman. So Brahmanas, right? Brahmanas, Brahman. Brahmanas, one who know the difference between matter and spirit. So that's the neophyte Brahmana. And then the middle Brahmana, he's, striving for something more, like Paramatma realization. But Prabhupada explains in one place that the real Brahmana is one who knows Para-Brahman. And that Para-Brahman means, to actually understand Para-Brahman means to understand Bhagavan. So often when we say the word Brahmana, it implies Vaishnava Brahmana. You have to look at the context, right? If you went to the database and did a search for the word Brahmana, I can't even guess how many hits you would have for the word Brahmana. Must be like 8,000 hits or something. More than that, maybe. I don't know. That'd be a good exercise to do. But we have to take it in context. What kind of Brahmana is being referred to? Often the word Brahmana is just being thrown around as a generic Varnic designation. So when Krishna said, when Krishna is being referred to as having Brahmanas and cows as his topmost favorite personalities, this refers to the Vaishnava Brahmana, that Brahmana who has Krishna dear to him, right? Mm-hmm. Krishna's mood is that he who has me in his heart, I have them in my heart, right? So it's a reciprocal thing. That's why the Brahmanas, the Vaishnava Brahmanas, are so dear to Krishna, because they don't have anyone in their heart except him. So how can he not consider them dear?
Yes.
Yeah, Mataji, just, as you said rightly, Brahman, usually, I don't know where from it has come, maybe Veda, Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. So, as you said, So I didn't realize that they are the lowest kind, but that is always that saying is there. They understand Brahman. So in the Brahman realization stage, that is there again somewhere, as you mentioned also, topmost Brahmana is the Vaishnava, somewhere also Prabhupada says, I don't know exactly where. So that's a wonderful explanation. Sumit Prabhu, go ahead. Anything you would like to further ask?
I have one more question. Like Krishna says, the cow is also my favorite animal, right? But then there is another verse which says that, a person who just goes to any dham and just takes bath and does not associate with saintly people, his intelligence is just like that of a cow or an ass. But the way I see it, isn't this in a demeaning manner? They're saying that his intelligence is like that of a cow. I mean,
Yeah, right. The cow is also used as an example of the bodily concept of life, that one who considers like his homeland, his place of birth as worshipable. He's no better than a cow or an ass. That, of course, is referring, what you brought up is, of course, referring to material cows. Krishna's most favorite pet, if you will, animal in Goloka is obviously the cow. And the cows here are like little representative of Surabhi cow in Goloka. And Krishna obviously favors cow protection. Yet, that doesn't mean, because the cow is Krishna's favorite animal, that the cow is also the most intelligent being. Right? So if you hear statements that, those who accept their homeland as worshipable have no better intelligence than a cow or an ass, it's not like, that's an insult to the cow. And why does Krishna love them so much when they're like kind of less intelligent? That's not actually the point. He's not like having the cow as his favorite animal because they're so intelligent. One time Prabhupada was walking with the devotees and he said, "What is the most beautiful animal?" And one of the devotees quickly said, "The cow." Thinking, well, that's the right answer, isn't it? What's the most beautiful animal? Cow. And Prabhupada looked and he said, "No, not the cow, the horse." And Prabhupada went on to say about how beautiful horses were, their bodily structure, and he kind of like frowned when a devotee said the cow was the most beautiful. So these are not contradictory statements. It's not contradictory statements that, you're no better than a cow or an ass if you're on the bodily conception of life, or you go to the holy dham and you don't even hear from the sadhus. That doesn't contradict Krishna's favoritism towards the cows. He's not being favorite towards them because they're the most intelligent or something. He drinks their milk. He gets everything from them.
Yeah. Okay. So any more questions?
He chants the names of the cows. Did you know that? Our japa beads, we have 108 beads, and we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. It's explained that Krishna also has japa beads, 108 on a string. But he's chanting the names of the 108. There's 108 like groups of cows, and they each have a name. This group has a name, that group has a name. Each individual cow has their individual name, but the whole group has a categorical name or whatever, descriptive name. So we're chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and he's chanting, cow mantras on his japa beads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. This is interesting. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna, devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Very
Not
nice.
well,
Thank you very much, Mataji. I think this is very relatable at this point of time, at least for me. Not a question, but just wanted to share one of my personal something that helped me chanting. I mean, the initial verses here, 103, 104, they say, talk about, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks about the chanting. So whenever my mind is wavering and I'm not able to chant even one mantra properly, what I do is I listen to either Prabhupada's chanting or I listen to some kirtans by devotees. And I totally get lost in the kirtans. I mean, like listen them for hours and hours. So just to get the rust off my brain, and that helps me come back and have like a proper chanting the next day, inattentive chanting, to get rid of the inattentive chanting. Again, I have to do this repeatedly, this exercise. So I learned, over years that this is how I can train my brain. Probably a laymanish way of trying to do attentive chanting. Then the second one is, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talking about initiation not requiring, is an initiation not a prerequisite for mantra or chanting mantra. I was connecting that to what happened during, 500-600 years back during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, or even before, if we take a few steps back and go all the way back to Ramanujacharya time, right? So at that point of time, the Brahmanas were using certain qualifications as prerequisite and holding back the mantra, giving the mantras to like Chandalas, or not giving the mantras to other people. So I was reasoning myself that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meant, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meant that to distribute mantra, or mantra is not available freely everywhere. That's the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well. So mantra is available everywhere, so it doesn't require any initiation or any prerequisite qualification. And whereas when it comes to Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada is, further down in the slokas, in the purport, Prabhupada was defending initiation, the whole process that's established. And that's because that's to, again, based on what you just explained, I was also trying to connect the dots and say, yeah, Prabhupada established this process of initiation. We have to respect this process. We do not want to certainly contradict with spiritual masters, our disciplic succession, but that Prabhupada has established this discipline, and Prabhupada has established that as a qualification to go further into devotional process. I don't know if I made sense, but
yes, it's actually a very nice comment there. Krishna Prabhu, where are you speaking from? Where are you living?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Mataji.
Oh, you're in Raleigh. Okay. I really like this point that you brought up, because when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, oh, this holy name can be chanted by anyone, and it doesn't depend on initiation, it doesn't wait for initiation. Do we realize what he's doing? He is opening the door for preaching. As you were basically referring to, Prabhu, that if the mantra was dependent on initiation, we couldn't go out and give it to people. There would be no Harinam Sankirtan, public chanting of the holy name. That would be taboo. You can't do that, But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, their mission was to distribute what no other avatar of Krishna, not even Krishna himself, distributed. And that was freely to distribute pure love of Krishna, without consideration of who was so-called qualified and who was so-called not qualified, etc. And it's explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj very nicely, that they broke open the storehouse of love of God and freely distributed the contents. Like a store has like a big warehouse where they keep all their goods, and then they open it up and put the items on the shelf and put price tags on them. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates opened up the warehouse and just distributed all the contents freely to anybody who paid the price of just the desire to have it. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sampradaya is extremely revolutionary, because never in the time, in history, were mantras given out publicly like that. They wouldn't have any potency if they were. If somebody went to the mountaintop and, advertised, broadcasted the mantra, it wouldn't have any effect. Therefore, it is said that one's mantra has to be received into cyclic succession or it won't have any effect, right? But the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, is not like that. It can be distributed widely and freely without consideration of the qualifications of the recipient. But when one receives the holy name, naturally, one is going to feel gratitude. Naturally, one is going to want, if they're chanting a little sincerely, naturally, one is going to want to submit to those persons who have gifted them the holy name and take further instructions from them on how can I chant purely, right? We can just go on chanting Namabhas, sometimes Namaparad, but to chant Shuddha Nam really does require, the mercy of the spiritual master and to receive instructions on how to make advancement in chanting. How can I improve my chanting? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu basically began the preaching movement by these very bold statements that the holy name of Krishna is not dependent on initiation. And then he went on to glorify the holy name, that it all by itself can offer full liberation to the chanter and fully cleanse that chanter of all their sinful reactions. You didn't have to go to the priests, right? And the brahmanas and this and that. You didn't have to go to all these individuals and, pay something or do some big atonement or perform all these ceremonies and rituals and this and that to be freed from sinful life. All you had to do is chant Hare Krishna. So his movement is very revolutionary. It can put, so many gurus out of business because we're selling the product for free and they're charging a price, right? So yes, thank you for that point. It's very, very, very nice point. Because we have to appreciate that's what we're in, as a preaching movement, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful class.
Okay.
Mataji, you also repeat, I think just now, second time repeated that, holy name doesn't depend on, initiation or something, but vice versa is also true. Unless we chant Hare Krishna mantra, there is no initiation. So first thing we start and practice, then after certain time of chanting only, we get a chance to get initiated. Vice versa is true. You refer two times, one this time prominently. That is there. And one more thing also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu down the line again in same chapter says that he had two sons, Narahari and Raghunandan. He says, Mukunda, you go and earn money. Then he says, Narahari, you go and preach. And he also says, Raghunandan, go and do the deity worship. So all this, they have to have second initiation, Mataji, three of them, or they can do like Raghunandan will do deity worship. He has to be, again, I don't know whether those days there was second initiation.
Right. And there were different initiations for Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, but the one of the main reasons we need a guru is the guru determines which type of devotional, out of the 9 angas of bhakti, the 9 processes of devotional service, the guru is going to engage the disciple in those activities which are most suited for that disciple and which is most conducive for purifying that disciple so that they can most rapidly come to the platform of chanting Shuddhanam. So some devotees will be instructed, no, you should be primarily engaged in deity worship. Another devotee might be instructed that they should be engaged primarily in some kind of business where they can bring Lakshmi home for serving the deity and serving the Vaishnavas. Some will be instructed, you go out and do preaching, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not that one instruction is higher and one instruction is lower. They're all tailor-made for the individual devotees. And, we're like the patient. We can't cure ourselves of our disease. We have to go to the doctor and be prescribed the proper medicine.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay.
Maybe Mataji, it's getting late for you, maybe.
Yes.
And any last question, any Mataji, Avilasa Mataji, or anybody would like to ask, or any other Mataji? No Matajis.
Mataji, I have one question. Mataji, you said that relevant question can help you in progressing in devotional service. Mataji, we get a lot of opportunities to meet senior devotees. But Mataji, how to take advantage of this association? How to ask good questions? Because we see Bhagavad Gita also, it was so good because of good questions of Arjun. So Mataji, how we should ask questions? What are the things that we should keep in mind while asking questions?
So what did Satyaraj Khan show here by his example, how to go about asking the question? Satyaraj Khan asked how he can make advancement in spiritual life because he had the mood that he really didn't know. He really, really, honestly, he wasn't just like going through the motions, putting on a show. He actually felt like, oh my God, I've just been to Ratha Yatra and all these ecstatic, opportunities for associating with the devotees and Lord Jagannath and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I'm about to go back to Bengal and I don't feel like I even know what I'm supposed to do to make spiritual advancement. He honestly, truly felt that way. So he turned to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and asked him, please, I can't figure it out. Could you instruct me? Arjuna was the same way. I can't figure it out. Can you instruct me? I'm confused. So the only way we ask good questions or relevant questions from more advanced devotees about how can I make some advancement, what service is best for me or whatever, is that we really have to be on that level of honestly feeling I desperately need instruction. Normally, we don't really feel like we need instruction because we feel like we've got it covered, right? I got it figured out. I'm good. I don't need any help. So yeah, we're not going to ask relevant questions until we feel like that. Otherwise, it will actually just be academic. I'll raise my hand at the end of that class of that devotee and I'll, make some intelligent inquiry. Well, that's not really the mood, Oh, I want to ask an intelligent question. The mood is just, I desperately need to know something, like what to do. Now we might say, well, golly, I don't have to ask that question because I already have people telling me and I read Prabhupada's books and it's on every page. So I'm not in that mood that I have to ask this particular person, what can I do to make advancement? In which case we can do something like just ask them for their blessings so that I can chant more purely. because that's really the only thing we need to do. It is the only thing we need to do. The only thing we need to do is chant Shudanam. So now the question is, well, what do I need to do to chant Shudanam? Like, what am I doing wrong that I'm not there yet? And I've been chanting for 2 years or 2 decades or 2 centuries, and I'm not there yet. So if we have the association of devotees that actually know us, not just somebody who comes, gives a class and then leaves and you don't see him again, but somebody who actually, witnesses you and gets to know you a little bit more on a personal level, day-to-day level type thing. Those are the people that are actually, it's not the fly-by-night itinerant preachers that you're going to get personal advice from because they don't know you. Why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tell one devotee, you should do deity worship, another one, you should go, do business, and another one, you should preach? He didn't just pull that out of the hat and randomly give it to the devotees. It's because he knew those devotees. He witnessed those devotees. He had them all sized up, all figured out, Like a doctor does an examination before he prescribes. So like that, if we just want to ask academic, intelligent, general, generic questions, we can do that to anybody who comes into our purview and can speak, and you feel like they know what they're talking about. But what we really want to do is find those devotees that know us on a personal level. They see what we're doing, what our circumstance in life is at this moment, and the day-to-day type get to know you person. And those are the people that can actually answer relevant inquiries on what can I do to improve my chanting? Because they can point out, well, you've got this like weird habit that you do that I think you need to work on, or I see you have this attachment over here, or you have this bad quality over here, or you do this particular service kind of in a half-baked way, you cut corners, or, they have to know us. What you're a grahasta, you have, maybe a bunch of children that you're in charge of, or you have health issues or something. Relevant questions need to be posed to people who are relevant in our life. Otherwise, we can ask questions to any advanced devotee and they can give like the generic perfect answers, but now we need them tailored down to our particular needs and circumstances, etc. And that's why Shiksha gurus in our life are so very important. We put too much emphasis on the Diksha guru that we might never see, but we really need down-to-earth, day-to-day Shiksha gurus who know us on a personal level. Because spiritual life is personal. It's not just a pat formula. Otherwise, all we need is we might as well just throw all the devotees away and just read Prabhupada's books, because Prabhupada's got everything you need to know in his books. But now we need real live devotees who know us in real life and who can tailor make the medicine for us. Prabhupada always uses that example. That you go to the drugstore, the pharmacy, and they've got a whole wall full of medicines. All the medicines in the world are in this store, but which one's for me? So then you need a personal examination by a doctor who gives a very tailor-made, unique prescription for you. So Prabhupada's books are like that. They've got all the medicine there, but based on our varna, based on our ashram, based on our, life circumstances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have to have a personalized prescription from a Shiksha guru that knows us. That's what relevant inquiry is.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for that was a wonderful explanation. Mataji asked relevant questions. And that Mataji, we see often people ask, again, it is just observation what I have seen. Same question to different speakers. I don't know what's the idea behind it. They want to compare or something. That's one of the things which I have frequently seen. Then again, from this Satyaraj Khan's, if as you read and we look at this verse, it's all spontaneous. If we are involved, as you told, if we are sincere, again, as you said, and Sumit Prabhu also mentioned that verse 434 in Bhagavad Gita. So that itself has answer, and you explained it perfectly. Thank you, Mataji, so much. And anybody else, Raj Prabhu, you have anything? I'm not forcing, just for the sake of asking question, but we must close this time. So, Sumit Prabhu, are you there still?
Yes, Prabhu, I'm here, Prabhu.
Yeah, just 30 seconds. Anybody else doesn't come, so we should close with thanking Mataji this time.
Okay.
I don't think all are tired. Go ahead. So,
All right, so let's give a big Haribol to Mataji before we close. Thank you so much, Mataji, for this talk.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your association.
Sure. So everyone, I request you to please unmute your microphones and let's do Haribol 3 times for Mataji. Her Grace Danakeli Mataji ki jai.
Haribol,
Haribol.
Haribol, Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
can you stay back for a minute, or I can call you other line?
Yes, Prabhu, I can stay back, Prabhu.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mataji. Thank you.
Okay, I will leave now. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I think, Prabhu, the YouTube has to be stopped, I think.
Yeah, I don't stop here. Yeah, that's true. Just 1 second. What do I do?